Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to Hiker Sessions, where we talk to through hikers and day hikers and everyone in between. And today, we are very blessed and lucky to have Olivia or Dixon with us today. You may have already seen one of the interviews I did with her husband, Steve, but I thought it would be interesting, even though they hike together as a married couple. I thought it'd be really neat just to get Olivia's thoughts as well. So, thank you for joining, Olivia.
Sure, no problem.
Appreciate it. What, people always say, one of the questions I always get, well, why did you want to hike the trail and stuff? And I think that's a tough question. You guys had already done the PCT before, when you had decided to do the PCT in 2022, did you already have the AT hike in mind, or was it something that kind of during the PCT or after you thought about doing?
It was probably already in mind, although it was a decision to try and do one of them first and see if we survived.
Yeah, that's a good plan. What did you find more or less challenging about the AT than the PCT?
I think I found it more challenging to keep my mind on the trail, on the AT, just because there wasn't so many views. On the PCT, you're always looking forward to getting, to the next view. And you knew on the AT that you wouldn't get nearly as many of those. So that's one thing that I found a little bit harder.
Yeah, just mind stray a little bit. Even you mentioned the views. Are there some that stand out in your mind on the AT, even though there weren't as many? Are there any that kind of spots on the trail or places that kind of stand out when you think back?
Yeah, I mean, every now and again you'd get to a little opening and you'd get a view, and it was like, wow, this is amazing. There was one where there was a bench. I can't even remember what state it was in, but there was a little bench and a little place where they'd opened up the forest and you got a view. And it was like, wow, this is wonderful. I mean, it wasn't very special or anything, but it was seeing the sun and the sky and a view.
Yeah. We didn't have to worry too much about sunscreen most of the time.
No, not at all.
I carried it with me, but I'm sure you guys researched it a little bit. But what was something that you'd wished you'd known about before you started the AT that maybe surprised you, or something along the way? Any surprises?
I think the hostels was one. I mean, I kind of knew there were hostels, but I had no idea how different and exciting they were to get there and be in this place where there were lots of other hikers doing the same thing, but all with different ideas and things that they were doing it for. And that was I just didn't expect that.
Yeah, was that something that's not the same experience on the PCT, it sounds like, or?
No, you don't really have any hostels. I mean, there are one or two, but because it's a newer trail, nothing like that was ever established. And I don't think the people in the West are that into hostels. So it really was more of the hotel experience.
Yeah, that's good to know. I guess I didn't really realize that myself either. I figured that maybe it was just the same, but I guess that makes sense. Your point about it not being around. I mean, the history of the AT goes back, probably 80, 90 years, 37. And I'm sure hostels, I'm not sure when they first came out, but they've been around for decades for sure. Hikers that you met along the way, I can think of 2 or 3 people, your strangest trail names. Were there any trail names you were like, I wonder what that's all about, or something like that? Were there any people or interesting people that you still remember?
Well, most of them were sort of self-explanatory, so you knew where they were coming from. Odd ones, Yeah, there were a few odd ones that you went, well, why did you choose that name? And they usually had a good story behind it. I
Yeah.
can't really think of anyone in particular. Um, no,
Where'd you get your trail name, Dixon? I think
well,
I know, but
yeah, my brother, unbeknown to me, had done some research, and I'm related to Jeremiah Dixon, who was one of the surveyors that surveyed the line for the North and South in the Civil War.
wow, that's pretty cool. So the Mason-Dixon line, that half of that naming, you are
Yes,
related to.
yes,
Wow. Yeah, that's a pretty cool. Seeing as you walk literally right by that sign, right
yeah,
after the Penmar Park. I can remember plain as yesterday, just walking past that sign and thinking,
yeah.
"Oh, there it is. I've heard about it all my life." Yeah.
It was a little bit disappointing just because it was in a scrubby little patch of wood next to a
Yeah.
road, and there was this little sign. There was no monument or flags or anything.
Yeah, or picture of a relative. Yeah. So it sounds like you'd never seen it before either then.
No, no.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, that's
if you were going to see the Mason-Dixon line, I think you'd go somewhere else where there was a monument. You wouldn't end up in this little scrubby bit of forest.
yeah. Yeah, right next to, I think it was really close to like a railroad track and
That's right.
some
Yeah.
bushes. Yeah. What was your I can't you were talking before about that view you had, and I think I know the one, but as far as like states, like people always ask people, oh, what was your favorite section and things like that, but as far as states, what was like if you had to go back and hike another state again, which state do you think that you would do and why? Because the why might be different between different people.
I would do, well, I did enjoy the mountains, so I would do New Hampshire and Maine again.
Okay. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I'm with you there. I like the mountain, and we did get more views. Obviously, when you get up to Maine, New Hampshire, you get out of the green tunnel
Yeah,
a,
yeah.
a
I've
little
always
bit.
liked the change of the environment when you go from deep in the trees and then you climb up through into the semi-alpine and up into the alpine. I've always liked that change in the forest as you do that.
Yeah, I like it. Even during the day, I used to like a change.
Yeah,
To get out of the
yeah,
green or whatever, or to see
yeah.
a pond or something like that. I had asked Steve, but I'll ask you. What like your gear? I think you guys pretty much had the same gear, but what was like your favorite piece of gear that you're like, wow, I know that you guys are thinking about doing the CDT in 2026, and gear changes year to year, but is there, whether it's just a spoon or anything, is there anything you're like, oh, I loved that, I'm keeping that?
Wow. Uh, I mean, I would keep pretty much the same gear, but to think which one I loved more than any of the others,
Yeah,
no, I don't have one.
yeah. They just worked. They did their
Yeah,
they
they
did their
work.
job,
Yeah, I mean,
and you'd recommend them.
there wasn't one I said, right, I'm never taking this again.
Yeah, yeah. And your shoe, what you wear for shoes?
I wore the Sportivas, the
Okay.
Sportiva Bushido. They fit my feet. I've got narrowish heels, and I've always liked them.
Yeah. How many pair did you end up going through for the
5.
trail? 5. Was that similar to the PCT
Yes,
or?
I did feel at times I could have changed them a bit sooner. Feet start to hurt. It's one of the things you should think about is, how many miles have I done in these shoes? And is it the shoes or am I tired? And quite often it's the shoes.
Yeah, and it's tough, and it's not like you can just get them like the next day most of the time either,
No,
right? It's
no.
mail drop, or you have to be
Yeah.
lucky to be in a town that actually has the shoe you want.
And it's the
Um,
expense. I mean, you've got to add in, you've got to think when you do the hike that you do need 5 pairs of shoes, and that's 5 times 160 or something like that, which, it's like, wow, that's a lot of money.
It is. I think that was one of the things that surprised me was the amount of money that you spend. Of course, a lot of it's on food.
Yeah.
I think about 45% of my spending was on food, but you need it, and I mean you're going to be eating at home too, but you maybe eat out a little bit more.
Yeah.
What do you find? What do you find the hard? We talked a little bit about being in that green tunnel, but physically, did you find anything hard, or did you have any? Like you mentioned you mentioned you had narrow heels, but not heel pain. I had talked to Steve. His body, he said, is pretty good except for his feet. Any nagging injuries along the way that stayed with you, or maybe when you got home, did anything kind of show itself up after you were done?
Well, when I first started, I had a different pair of shoes. What were they called? I can't remember what they called. They were a lightweight, trail hiking running shoe, and I did start to get foot pain. So I did change. When I changed to the Sportivas, I got rid of that. So it is worth thinking, if you do start to get foot pain, it is worth changing up your shoes. Even if your shoes look fine, your feet maybe just don't like those shoes. It wasn't blisters. It was just a bit of soreness at the end of the days, which I did get rid of. So that was fantastic for me. Unlike Steve, who had his sore feet the whole time.
Yeah, no, that you bring up a really good point, because when you mention that, it makes me think, because I had bought 3 pairs, I think, to begin with, but it makes me think you might not want to buy 3 pairs or 5 pairs, right? Unless you've got a lot of hiking under your belt, and just walking around the neighborhood, I don't think really counts.
No,
I mean,
no.
I've met a few people who are like, wow, these were great at home, but I didn't have my pack on. I wasn't going up and down hills and things like that. So yeah, I think that's a balance. Maybe just get 1 or 2 pair, or get some real serious hiking in them before you start
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
That's
But yeah,
interesting.
it's a good idea, because your feet can change size. Your feet change size,
Yes.
and you bought your 3 pairs. Then you can't send them back after 6 months.
That's true. Yeah, with the swelling and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
That's true.
Which I didn't have any on the AT. I
Yeah,
think
I didn't either.
I
I didn't
think
either. I was lucky, I think.
yeah, I think it was a change in them on the PCT, where you start in the desert, you get hotter feet, so you do get foot swelling, and then your
Okay.
feet actually change size. So
Yeah, that makes sense. That
yeah,
makes a lot of sense. One thing, some of my favorite memories from the trail are what, I don't know, came to, I guess it was a saying on the trail, side quests, like, going into towns, or all these different little things. I remember, like, I was in Bennington, Vermont. We went to a movie one night, and that was pretty cool. I didn't think I'd be going to a movie theater on the trail. I know you guys did some other things off the trail. What were like 1 or 2 of the fun things you guys did as kind of a side quest?
well, the one I liked most was going into New York, because
Oh
I
yeah.
absolutely never imagined, taking a bus and going into New York for a day. It just wasn't on the radar. It was a hike, and you were hiking the whole time. But to take those side trips and take a day off, it was like, in a way, you started the trail again. It was a good way to take a break.
Yeah, no, I agree. My whole mentality was just right on the trail, don't come off. And luckily, I got around enough people that had a little different idea of it than me, and it was so additive to the hike. Like it's obviously one of the things that you remember that's pretty neat, and there's other things that I remember too. So I think that'd be a piece of advice I would give to people. Like, it's okay to come off the trail
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
day or two, especially if you hit some of these places you've never been. I mean, that's one of the things, because people have asked me, a couple of people who are thinking about doing it. Any other advice that you could give to people, like just simple things, or, as far as miles per day or food or anything, any little tidbits of advice you could think of?
Oh, wow. Um, well, there's lots of things, I suppose, but for it's like, don't get too caught up in how many miles you do a day. There are things that always, if you've got a plan, like lots of people do a plan, I'm going to do this many miles every day. But, as soon as you get out of the door, that goes by the wayside because it doesn't work. So just do what you feel you're capable of doing each day, and always have like an aim. So you have the beginning of day, you start at, on a hillside, and you go, well, I'm going to go up and down, up and down, up and down. But where do I want to end? Like, do I want to end up with a view and a nice campsite, or am I aiming for a shelter? Have an aim, because that gives you somewhere where you're going to end the day. So don't go beyond it, but you can always stop before. It just gives you a better idea of. It helps mentally, I think, is the main thing. You've got to start and a beginning and an end of each day.
Yeah, no, I think that's, after doing it, I think that's really, really good advice for people who are thinking about doing the AT or PCT or any long trail, even something, 500 miles or less. I think that's a really good idea. I didn't watch a lot of YouTube videos and things, but I'd read books and I'd always heard about the AT community, the AT, the trail will provide and all that. What was your takeaway, and what were your thoughts on just the community, and not really comparing it to the PCT, but just the AT itself? Like, what was your takeaway or thoughts on that community, and how much thought did you put in it before? Did you think it was going to be, wow, this is going to be great, we're going to meet a bunch of people?
I didn't really think about it before, but having done the PCT, I know that you develop a community because you end up with a group of hikers that you go along at roughly the same rate. So every other town or every third town or whatever, you'll run into people again, or you hit them on the trail again, and you just become to know them, and you expect to see them, and you want to know what's happened to them. I mean, it's like every now and again, like Ghost, who we hiked with and was a really great character, and then suddenly, he disappeared and we never saw him again. And it's like, well, where is he? What happened? You do develop this community, and it's fun.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It's funny you mentioned about, like, you'd go a day or two and not see anyone. And I remember I saw you guys, and then I told Steve, I even wrote it down. I had to look, I had checked my far out. I saw you in the Shenandoahs, and I didn't see you for 828.8 miles later. At that Murphy's Bar.
Right.
In Hanover.
Yeah.
But it was so exciting. I mean, we had texted, because I think that's cool too. I do kind of not long for the days, but even as not long ago as 2016, on the lean-to that I maintain, there's a register in there, like a book. And even in the last 8 years, I noticed so few people writing in it anymore. And I think that's a little bit because of technology, maybe. People text and things.
Yeah.
But it goes back to what you were saying about, you'd have someone like Ghost or someone else. If they got ahead of you, years ago, people would write in the trail journals in the shelters and things like, hey, I was here on this day, and then you get there and everybody would just pour through the, because I did it. I went back up, about a month or so ago, up on my section in the 100-mile wilderness, and I went through the trail journal just hoping I'd see some people that maybe were like behind us, that I was like, gee, I wonder what happened to him or her, or things like that. But usually it would fill up a whole journal one hiking year, and I left it there last year and this year, and it was still only 2/3 full.
Right.
So, but it was good to be able to, I mean, technology is good. You can get text people and get their phone numbers and things like that. So what are your thoughts? I know Steve said that if he had to start this April and do the CDT, he would not do it. But I know you guys are planning for 2026. We'll kind of end our interview here with just some of your general thoughts, level of excitement, and maybe planning stage for finishing your Triple Crown in 2026.
I do think about it. Like, it's surprising how often you think about it when you're out just walking around. I could. I mean, I'm now fine. I did have sore knees at the end there, but I've recovered. And as soon as it warms up again, I'm in the spring. I'm sure I'll be thinking about it. But yeah, I really would like to do the CDT, not just to finish the Triple Crown, but to have the views. Which we didn't get on the AT, and everybody says that it's the best one, and I think partly because it really is remote, and you can make choices, so you don't have to do the same line that everybody else does, and the detours that you can take are quite a bit longer. So I think the trail community is going to be quite different, because you'll meet a bunch of people and then you might not see them again for weeks. They'll have gone a different way.
That's interesting. And I don't think there's the percentage of people that do to start the CDT rather has to be considerably less than the AT. I think it's like maybe a quarter, maybe I'm just shooting off the top of my head here. So that alone and the extra mileage and things like that. Yeah. I think that community would be much different. Well, look, I appreciate you taking time out of your day to join. I know I had a lot of people that followed my channel this year asking about you and Steve and a lot of other people. So this will maybe just give them a little update, and maybe I can get Steve to YouTube your journey in 2 years on the CDT. I don't know. I doubt it.
Maybe you'll come with us.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows? It's a long ways away. I definitely. I'll let you go with this. When I finished the AT, the same day you guys did, and we were all you joined me at my house, which was awesome. I was thinking, man, that's probably no more long trails for me. But as time goes by, like you start thinking about these other, maybe even not that long, but you're like, oh, I could do that 200-mile trail, 500-mile trail. It's amazing. It's amazing. It kind of gets into your blood a little bit.
Well, you're not intimidated by the length.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that is, and I think that might have to do, final thought, I promise, with people who love the CDT so much. It's usually their third long trail, right?
Right. Yeah.
They've done the AT and the PCT, and they've got all their gear down. There's a comfort level there that you can't get unless you've already hiked 4,500 miles and things like that. Well, I'll look forward to it, even if I'm not there with you guys. I'll definitely look forward to following along, and maybe I can get you guys to text me a picture every now and then.
Right. Yes, we better do better at that, because we're not very good at taking pictures.
Yeah, I know it's hard, but look, thanks again for joining, and we won't be strangers. I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Okay, great to see you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.